All right, it is time for a Triple R Versus, where we take two comic book characters, we analyze their fighting abilities, their powers, and their tactics to try to figure out which one would beat the other in a one-on-one throwdown to the death. Of Norse mythology, has also worked with Olympians and other gods and cosmic entities, making for a very rich and very interesting history. What is strange about Thor is that and what I like about this particular matchup is he has not actually crossed into the mutant sort of story of the Marvel Universe very often, which means that he has faced off against Apocalypse, but under very specific circumstances, and it has never been a one-on-one fight.
That's pride and vanity talking, not leadership. You've forgotten everything I taught you. But a warrior's patience.
While you wait and be patient, the Nine Realms laugh at us. The old ways are done. You'd stand giving speeches while Asgard falls.
You are a vain, greedy, cruel boy!
And you are an old man and a fool!
So Apocalypse was born in ancient times, and because Apocalypse eventually learned how to harness the technology inside the craft in order to grant him enhanced abilities and also enhance his already formidable mutant powers. Later on, we find out that one particular celestial, in fact, gives him a mission, and in exchange for his enhanced abilities, they get a favor from Apocalypse. As far as I know, that has not actually been revealed in comics yet. Whether it will ever be revealed, we don't know. But basically, Apocalypse is a combination of mutant and alien technology, making him an extremely dangerous opponent.
A mutant!
I am as far beyond mutants as they are beyond you.
However, when it comes down to it, Thor can really be a master of combat. For example, two examples that I think of right now are actually from the movies, but they do showcase what Thor is in fact capable of. The first one is in the Thor movie in 2011, where he fights trained hand-to-hand combatants, and he does not have his Asgardian strength, and yet he is able to effectively neutralize several highly trained agents, to the point where Phil Coulson remarks on this during their interrogation that he...
My man, some of the most highly trained professionals in the world look like a bunch of minimum wage mall cops. That's hurtful.
The other example of this is when he tries to keep the Hulk under control during the battle in the Avengers on the helicarrier. In this particular battle, Thor is shown to not call upon Mjolnir right away, and instead uses a series of ducks and feints and strikes against the Hulk to try to keep him busy. It's only when he realizes that the Hulk is far stronger than him that he actually calls upon his hammer Mjolnir. With the hammer, he is, of course, an Asgardian, so he has been trained since birth to master any sort of melee weapon, so axes and swords and war hammers. And since Mjolnir is his signature weapon, he is definitely really comfortable with that weapon and is able to use it super effectively. So, you know, that just boosts his combat capabilities, and I am not going to be depriving Thor of Mjolnir during this fight, because that would be like depriving Captain America of his shield or Spider-Man of his web shooters. It's an integral part of the character, so that increases his striking ability with just having the hammer, and also just, you know, and because he's just so at home with that equipment that it's really just part of Thor, is that I don't think that he's quite as good as, you know, some people would like to say, that he could just, you know, dodge and weave around anything and dodge any hit. I don't think that's completely true. It's not consistent with what he's shown in comics, but he is shown to be able to duke it out with beings like Hercules, Ares, even Captain America when he doesn't have powers, and is shown to be an impressive and perfectly capable hand-to-hand fighter.
Next.
Apocalypse is not, by definition, a warrior, but he does have some training in hand-to-hand combat. Most of this comes from his thousands of years of experience, where presumably being exposed to various different cultures, he has some working knowledge of hand-to-hand combat from various different martial arts disciplines and that sort of thing, and also his training with the Sandstormers and his time fighting in wars in Egypt. However, Apocalypse is not a warrior in the sense that he is constantly training. He will have a working knowledge, but will not have a dedicated training mindset when it comes to any sort of hand-to-hand combat. Mostly he relies on his powers and his celestial technology in order to augment his fighting abilities. So the conclusion as to who is the better fighter is painfully obvious. I have to give this one to Thor. Thor is a warrior first and foremost. That is his job. Apocalypse is much more a scientist and a mastermind. So in this case, if you were to take all of their powers away, put them in a room, give them 2 equal human bodies, Thor is definitely coming out on top of this one. He has thousands of years of experience just being a fighter. Apocalypse is by no means a poor hand-to-hand fighter. He has been trained by groups like the Sandstormers, and during his thousands of years, I'm sure he's picked up a lot of tricks and tips on various martial arts techniques, but that is nowhere in comparison to Thor, who practices martial arts all the time and is very often fighting in the thick of battle absolutely all the time, as opposed to Apocalypse, who is a mastermind and more often relies on his celestial technology and his own superpowers